Hey guys, my name is Colson Rosa, and welcome back to Seraphim Stories. Today I want to talk to you guys about action scenes. And this video is mostly going to be a broad or generalized overview of them, as different genres are going to have very different types of action scenes. I'm going to try to be addressing truths that will account for all of these genres and can be used no matter what type of story you're telling. The first thing that's really important to keep in mind when it comes to action scenes in your story is that you want them to be dramatic. Every action scene, no matter what type it is, large scale or small and personal to a specific character or protagonist, can build intensity throughout it. Now, there's different types of intensity that you could be going for depending on your style and the different mood of that scene. This can be done through emotions, vivid action, and high stakes. No event should be wasted or be boring or just be put into a story to be filler. There's so much more you can do when you're working on an action scene like this. If it's more down to earth, maybe you focus on the struggle of emotions or the struggle to accomplish and achieve something. If it's maybe more high stakes in the sense of large scale, the vivid actions that take place are so much more than just he attacked him or she attacked her, but using unique different types of approaches to large scale scenes. And it doesn't always have to be a battle, but it could be anything from a police stakeout or any other major moment in the intensity of the novel, especially when you head toward the climax of that novel. Now, I'll probably do a video later on discussing battle scenes in particular, as they're a very specific kind of action scene. But suffice it to say that you want to build drama into every action scene that you have, utilizing different types of drama and different ways to achieve that drama depending on the type of circumstances. It doesn't always have to be action just for the sake of moving the plot forward. It should move the plot forward, but it also should accomplish so much more in the tension that is felt over that trial and the overcoming of it. Some actions can be dramatic because they're easily won, and then you see the progress from that, but others can be dramatic because of the great losses that are experienced. So my next point then is a similar theme to those losses, talking about how an action scene needs to be realistic. Even in something like a fantasy setting, battles or action events should be gripping and believable. This actually helps tie into the drama, because if you have a scene that's realistic to what your characters actually go through, how they commonly would react to a situation like this, it's not forced or cartoonish, maybe unbelievable, but it feels like something that really could be happening, something that has a lot of success and a lot of failure, a lot of noticeable absences of judgment where it could have been done so much better, but also people striving for the hope that they have that they can do it, that they can make the accomplishment. And if you're able to achieve this realistic type of action event, it then makes the overall plot much more consistent, because you have something like a plot line that's outlining where your story is headed. So you're moving the story forward in such a way that's gripping to the reader and to the characters. They stay invested. They stay focused on what needs to be happening. And the drama is then built naturally from real emotions, real struggles, real characters with real flaws, doing their best, falling short, sometimes pushing it out, making it above and beyond what they ever even thought they were possible of. And this realism is appreciated throughout genres, especially when it comes to action scenes, even if there's a lot more imagination involved with the overall scope or setting of the entire story and the entire region and time that it then covers. The next thing I then want to focus on when it comes to action scenes is that they need to be focused. They are trying to attain a very specific goal or a set of goals. One of those goals being to move the plot forward. You don't want a action scene that contradicts other actions that have taken place, or an action scene that is wasted because it's not progressing the story at all. But if you're trying to get from A to B, you need to be able to get there, or you need to make progress forward toward getting there, not getting lost in endless side points or side stories that don't contribute to the narrative. At the same point in time, the objective and style of different action scenes, anything from an argument to winning something, losing something, making a new discovery toward your goal. There's a lot of different action types that take place, of course, and the action types are going to be very different for something like a romance than for something like a sci-fi story, where one is so much more focused on personal emotions and what can and cannot be accomplished, and the other is focused so much more on technology and high levels of intellect and perspective on the future. But these objectives and styles can be tailored to any specific story and genre. You need to know why you have a scene in the first place, why that action needs to take place. Why should the reader care? Why do the characters care? What is gained? What is lost? What falls through the cracks? And then come to recognize that you can use that goal to understand other more minor goals of that scene. A battle scene can do more than just say, this person lived, this person died. It can show the results of training. It can show the passion and perseverance and motivation that might never otherwise have been found. Anything from a battle to a fight to a road trip to any other action, it's anything that the characters do. Anything the characters do should have meaning or purpose behind it. And if it's not moving the story forward, then it should have a very deep, meaningful moment for the emotional stakes, the character development, understanding them in a more 3D, fleshed out manner, and coming to sympathize or resent them even more. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is then more of a technical aspect of action scenes, but it's very important to understand. They are written in a different way, whether they are first or third person. Depending on how your story is written, the scenes will then focus on only one person's perspective or a wide range of different POVs, point of views, in its entirety. If it's a war film focusing on one soldier and his struggle to make it through, kind of like the movie 1917 is for a lot of its majority, then you come to recognize that that first person perspective, seeing it through one character's lens, their focus in life, you get the information that only they would receive. Makes it a lot more grounded, a lot more personable, a lot more intricate in how it has to be written, because you're only getting to see through the eyes of one person. But then everything is related back to them specifically. It's a much more boots on the ground type approach of being in the middle of the action itself. Whereas with a third person perspective, you can show multiple characters, what they're struggling with, what they're feeling, what they notice that the other characters don't. Attacks made against their personhood, their identity, their character, or even their life that others might not even have noticed. And this requires a lot of care, because you have to not overwhelm your reader with jumping back and forth between so many different perspectives, but can also add insights that wouldn't typically be known to just a single character. The last thing I want to talk about is something I've already mentioned kind of previously, but action scenes need to progress the plot forward. Each action builds upon the rest. So when you have an action scene halfway through the book, it's building upon all the steps that have already been taken by previous characters in their previous moments throughout the early chapters. They then also contribute toward future actions, conversations, character buildup, and especially the plot. So when you're writing a scene, and especially when you're tying it up at the end, you need to know where it's heading, what it's transitioning into, so that then the transition is seamless and it doesn't seem choppy, like you end a scene, jump to a random point, jump to another random point, then eventually figure out how it ties back into the main narrative. It's so much better when it relates to the core characters immediately. And you see the ramifications, the repercussions of that type of conflict. Now, not every scene has to be conflict-based, but you want there to be a sense, even in the happier moments or the more solemn moments that are less action-packed, that the steps that are taken in those moments still matter to whether the characters still have their hope, whether they keep fighting, whether they keep striving to accomplish what they've set after. And these need to be balanced. You don't want to drag your reader down with constant depression of all of the horrors that are going on in this world. At least not typically. A few authors can get away with that, but that is rare for most stories. At the same point in time, you don't want to make it seem like everything is just perfect and happy and nothing's hard, everything's easy. That's not relatable. That's not realistic, and that's not adding to the tension that you've worked so hard to build in this story. A happy scene here or there should serve as a reprieve from the tense action, not as the main focus. A moment of relaxation before re-entering this challenge they've been working so hard to overcome. And not every action scene has to be grand, the biggest scene in the whole novel. That's what your climax is for. But even lesser scenes, as far as their grand scope, still need to have this drama, this realism, this focus and clarity, showing not just in a broad stroke the actions that happen, but specifics to what the actions mean, what the characters really are doing. You can go so much farther than he fixed the car, but you can dive into what he was working on in the engine, how he kicked the tire when it wasn't working, and how he kept trying and trying, grabbing new tools and new parts, and eventually at the end it roared to life. And that means so much more then to the character than he fixed the car. So I hope you dive deeper into action scenes, seeing what really needs to be accomplished within them, and then working from that platform. And if you guys have any questions about this, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to talk to you about those things or make future videos clarifying certain points that I've made. But I also hope you consider some of the previous videos on this channel defining some of the points that I've already made that can help clear up some of these questions for you. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing, as that would just help me so much to continue doing this work and teaching you guys so much more about creative writing. So I hope you guys love the video. God bless.